Hello, and welcome back to part two of our Kodomo-no-Hi tutorial series, where we're going to be going over some beginner stuff for our lessons. And we're going to jump right in today where we're going to cover how to make this roof the way it's been designed for this scene. Last week, or a few days ago, we had actually gone into this sign here and we had designed this. And as you can see, it's pretty close to the original. I think we got pretty close to that. And today we're going to be going over this upper portion up here. We've designed this. Let me hit redo. We've already designed this. And I'll go ahead and move this out for us so that we can see what we're working with. So we're going to cover how to make these roof tile shapes, how to fit them together, and then we'll cover how to make these wooden boards. In the background, I've between the last video and this video, I've practiced this a few times, and so I've done some of the heavy lifting in the background. That will accelerate this video maybe a little bit faster than what you'll be able to do because I'm going to have some of the profiles that we need for these shapes already loaded in my project. I'll go over how to design those briefly, and then you can pause the video and try and copy my profiles as we go into the designs of this. And so the only other thing that we'll cover is we're going to go over how we got this wood look, this wood effect on the top of the roof and just under the awning of the roof. And we'll keep this one as short and simple as possible, although this is going to be probably one of the more technical of this series. All right, so let's go ahead and you know what? Let's make a copy of our current project. Let's save this. Let's make a new one. That way we don't make too much of a mess. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to delete our roof and we're going to start over from scratch. Now, we're going to be working with a couple special tools in order to get this effect. More recently, one of the cool things that I've learned, I've used it in the past, but I didn't quite use it quite as effective for previous projects as I have, or I felt I had in this project. We're going to be actually using a tube tool, and that tube tool is going to give us access to designing some really cool stuff. Let me go ahead and get that one out of the way. And what we're going to be able to do with this tube tool is we're going to be able to design our own profile for how we want this shape to look. One of the unique benefits of using a tube is that we have access to up here. As you might have seen in one of our previous tutorials, we have access to this profile, and we can use this profile to define the shape that we would like to make. And we'll go ahead and take advantage of that now. We'll add this tube to our scene. We'll go ahead and I'm going to load up a preset. I've made a couple presets already. These are each shape that we're going to be using for this project. First, we have this shape, and I don't think it was supposed to do that. We're going to, let's see here, we're going to kick up our division X. We could do Y as well and give this a higher resolution. And I don't know if that's the shape that I would like to use. Let me go ahead and switch to this one, I believe is the actual shape that we're looking for. And as you can see, this is going to be the upper curved shape, kind of twisted around. this is going to be the hard part of this project, is actually getting the camera, getting the object oriented correctly. Let's go ahead and go to a front view, and let's get this object oriented the way it's supposed to be. I ended up going with about a 40-degree angle. So we're going to turn on our snapping. We're going to turn our snap to 5. That way we move in 5-degree increments while we're rotating this. We're going to turn on our gizmo tool, and we're going to just rotate this down into, we do what, 90 degrees plus another 40 would be like 130 roughly. And that is the angle that I had chosen to start getting us in the right position for this project. Once we've got that, let's go over here. Let's turn up our post subdivision. Let's turn this up a bit. That way the resolution isn't quite so rough. Let's turn it up to like 3 or so. And that should give us a pretty good shape. And we will need to stretch this out so that it matches the profile of our roof tile that we're going for. I'm pinching to zoom out so that we can kind of match the position and shape of this. And what we need to do is we're going to be just doing the interior portion of the roof, and we're going to use another trick. We're going to use our array tool in order to make this look right. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4 total. So we're going to come in, now that we've got that shape done, we're going to click add, and then we're going to click array. We're only concentrated on our X coordinate array, and we need to try and get these lined up. This is, again, this is going to be the more annoying part of this video, is trying to get this thing kind of close to lined up compared to the example footage or the example picture. And then we're going to take this and we're going to stretch it out about like that, and hopefully we can line that up to where it doesn't look too ridiculous. It's kind of painful to get this alignment looking like the photo. Okay, that's about roughly correct. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go with that. We can validate this and keep our instances. We can clone this so that we have a whole nother set of these. And then we're going to move these up. And these are going to be a little bit interesting compared to what the other one is, just because they're going to be moved upwards a little bit, about like that, right? In order to match the orientation. So we're going to be in roughly this position here. Yeah, that looks just fine. And then what we could do to make these look a little bit nicer, we can click on one of these. Let's go ahead and validate it, and let's use our smoothing tool a little bit on this just to make it look not so rough around the edges. Let's turn up our voxel remesh to like 250 or so, and then we'll smooth that out. And then what's nice is we're working on an instance, and all of these are linked together. And so as we edit one, we edit all. So it just makes it a little bit easier for us to get our job done. I probably could have done that before copying the full set, because now we got to go ahead and do this twice. Again, we'll validate that. Voxel remesh up to 250 plus. And then we'll come in here and smooth these edges out. That way we get that rounded look like we have in the image. pretty nice. Like that. Cool. Okay. Next thing we need to do, and then I apologize, I kind of skipped over the profiling. I'll take a moment to go into the profiling. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make another set of these. So we need to make sure that we have everything deselected. That way we only have two options up here. We're going to click add. We're going to do another tube. And this time I'll go over the profile a little bit more carefully. I do have this preset, and actually I don't have it preset. So yeah, I didn't actually save the preset for this. So we will be forced to do this the slow way. At least we could do it once. That way everybody gets to see what this will look like. Let me go back to my gizmo tool. Where did my tube go? Ah, it's way over here. Let's get this into view. We'll kick up our post subdivision to, yeah, that's 5. I usually stick with like 6 or 7. Let's do 6, sure. And it turned into a little ball. That's okay. We'll open our profile view, and we're gonna pinch out a little bit. It's kind of hard to pinch out the first time you do this, because it's gonna end up kind of grabbing the walls of the design. It pretty much does that every time. But what we need to do is we need to make this small, slightly scooped version, like a mini version of this tile. We need to make it upside down. So to do that, pretty straightforward. We're just going to tap this out and stretch it out. Again, a single tap on these will turn it from either sharp or to a soft curve. We'll do our best to make this even. So we'll do something like this. Lined up there. And we're going to add a couple points like this. And that'll give us a little bit of a softer edge. Because this thing is pretty soft edged. And then you can move these around, these points around, to try and get the smoothness that you're looking for. And again, I apologize, this is probably going to take a minute to do, but it'll take you a minute to do, I think, if you're following along. So what we're doing is we're trying to get that same profile, but again, maneuvering this thing into place is a little bit tricky. We need to be like this, and then we need to be like this, and then we're going to come down at a 40-degree angle. And hopefully I didn't screw that up. I think we might be okay. And then we're going to shrink it down so that it will fit in between each of these tiles. Like so. And then all we got to do now is stretch it out and slide it into place. So we want to put it about right there. Okay. And again, this is going to be not the easiest thing to do. Obviously, we've got a good dip on the top of it. We're going to have to add a little bit more arch here on the bottom. Again, we'll just go back into our profile. All we got to do is drag down a little little bit on these. And just like that, I think we've solved our problem. The only other thing that I notice is that the resolution still looks pretty horrible. Let's kick up. Let's go with linear subdivision. See if that helps. Like that. That way it's not too rough. And then we'll voxel remesh it. And that'll fix it for the most part. Okay, then we just got to get it into position. We'll validate it. Let's kick it up to 250 plus. And then we'll come in and smooth it out. You could do this before or after. It's probably better if we just get it knocked out of the way. Get it knocked out now before we start sticking it into an array. Okay, then let's click add. Let's make our array. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. So we're going to do X count of, maybe not X count. Let's do Y count. Can we do Z count? Maybe Z count. And then we need, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. And then we'll just increase our Z index between these to where they'll fall in between them. And then we're going to be off to the left and right of our tile. And then it's just a matter of getting the size down right. This is not the most painful thing I've ever done, but it's pretty close. Getting the size Z right, or X, depending on how you have it set up, is a little tricky. Can I just put in the number that I want? Let's try 9. Doesn't quite get it there. 9.5. Way too far. 9.25. We'll just play with the numbers until we get there. 9.1. 9.05. Oh boy. You know what? I'm just going to leave that there. That's fine. That looks good. Okay. And we'll validate that. We'll keep our instances. Now we have the top and bottom main tiles, and now we have the subtitle bottom. Let's go ahead and clone that. Now we have bottom and top. Let's make this one the top. That way it's just makes sense. And then we'll slide that up just like that. And then of course we've got to move it up to match the other tile set. And now just like that, we're almost done. So we'll kind of maneuver this into position to see if we're close. This is super tricky to get to line up. Okay, it looks roughly like that. Okay, and then now the only thing that we need to do is these left and right ends. I've already gone in and built, we'll just deselect everything. I've already built the profile for these. I'm going to skip over that making the profile process this time. You will get to see it on the screen because I'm going to pull it up here. We're going to use a preset, and I've built 2 different profiles. This one I believe is going to be this left side, and then the other one is going to be the right side. They do have different profiles according to our reference image. You could do them the same way and then just rotate them around and just use a single preset. I'm sure that would work fine. I just wanted to stay true to the original image. That way when I overlaid it on top of the original image, you all would not be able to easily notice that it wasn't the original. But once we got the profile loaded, we'll come in here, we'll kick post subdivision up to 6 or so. And then we'll begin the process of trying to rotate this into position without making a hot mess. So we've got 90 degrees, and then we come down to 130, and then we'll move that up into position like that. We'll shrink it down so that it fits better. Whoops. And snug that up like that. Slide it down, and then we're going to stretch this out. And that looks pretty hideous right now. We need to maybe kick up our division X. There we go. Yeah, that was looking pretty rough. There we go. With division kicked up, division X kicked up, it looks a lot better now. And then we can snug this into position. Like that. We're going to move this up to center and then stretch it out. And now we have one end tile done. We'll validate it, voxel it up to 250. We'll hit it with our smoothing tool. Make it nice and round, soft edges like it has in our reference image. Just like that. That looks great. Not a perfect match, but it's gonna look probably better than the original reference image, just because some of this stuff doesn't look that great. Okay, and once we've done that, we can clone it. Go into our gizmo tool. We'll move the clone up into position, and then we'll carefully use our arrow tools to line that up, and now the left side is done. We'll come in and, you know what we could do? Clone these. No, we can't do it. It's fine. We'll have to do it kind of the hard way, where we'll add another tube. We'll move it into position over here. At least it maintained the origin and orientation of the other tube. That's because I had it selected when I created it. That is something that once you get a little bit more used to things, you can do that, where you can have an item selected. When you add another item in, it'll maintain the orientation of the item that you had selected. And so you can kind of use that to help get things into position quicker, but sometimes that can make it more complicated. Okay, so I went ahead and loaded the profile that we need for this one. Again, we're going to have to kick up our post division. We'll go up to 7. Well, 6, that's fine. And then we'll kick our division X up so that it's nice and smooth. We'll make sure that the position of this looks good. Stretch it out to match the, let's actually move these. Wow, okay, let's move all of those. Can we do that? These. I want to move these because I notice there's a gap. There we go. Yeah, and then let's go ahead and validate this. It's kind of too big. I'll shrink it down a little bit, pull it in against the neighbor. Again, stretch that out a bit. Make sure that it lines up. We can go just up, just a touch. We'll validate that. We'll remesh it up to 250 plus. We'll hit it with our smoothing tool before we clone it. Come over here. We'll go ahead and clone, gizmo, and then we'll move this into position here. Make sure it doesn't have too big of a gap. We'll bring it up a little bit so that it matches everything else. And now we have the roof finished, roughly. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is we just need to add these wood panels. There's a wood panel here. There's a possibly some kind of wood panel that we can add back behind it here, maybe a smaller panel. It is catching a lot of the orange reflection and it's catching the wood color. So I'm guessing this is a wood panel back here. And then we'll have a wood panel up underneath the awning or the overhang of the roof. And we'll call it done for this particular project for now. Again, we'll try and keep these videos a little bit shorter. Okay, so with all that done, let's go ahead and highlight everything. Let's stick it in a group, that way we don't break it. And then we'll just call this roof. And then we can keep that in one object and move it around as we need to. So the next thing that we need to do, let's add another tube to this roof profile. And let's go ahead and hit a top-down view. Let's turn on a grid. Let's move this over here and then rotate it 90 degrees. Probably should have rotated it the other way, but that's fine. And let's go ahead back to our top view. We're going to stretch this out along the grid. The grid can fight you a little bit, so you might have to turn it off. The idea is to try and get this to be a straight line. I wish I knew of a way to increase the resolution on the grid. I'm gonna have to research that. If somebody knows how to do that, please leave it in the comments, because it's been the bane of my existence trying to get things lined up with the grid, or use the grid so that I can use snapping to keep things lined up without making a mess. But this will be straight enough. Okay, let's go over into our right hand view. And we can already see that some of our tiles aren't perfectly lined up. That's okay, it doesn't matter too much. We're gonna hit our profile again. Let's see here. We don't need a fancy preset for this one. We can actually just tap extra dots next to each corner and then soften each corner like this. And then we'll go in here, increase our post subdivision to like 6 or so, 5 or 6. Hello? It doesn't want to go up. That's fine. And then we'll kick up our division X. And it looks like our profile got messed up somehow. There we go. And now all we got to do is stretch it this way, because if we look at our example, it is like a 2x4 looking object. And then we're going to be resting on top of, by some measurable amount, we're going to be on top of the roof like that kind of thing. And then that should be pretty good. Yeah, that looks fine. Cool. Let's see if we can go ahead and validate this shape. We'll go in and smooth it out just a little bit. Don't go overboard, because this thing will make a mess real quick if you shade too much or smooth too much. It's just enough to kind of make the edges of the wood a little bit softer. But you can destroy a lot of stuff with a smoothing tool if it's too aggressive. That's pretty good. Now, what I want to do is I want to add a texture to this. So we're actually going to try, let's do roughness. We're going to go into your photos, and then I'm going to leave this in the description. You can use this wood roughness to apply this texture to your wood, and I think that looks about how it needs to look. We can go into our inspector and check the UV, the UV, and if you see in the inspector that the UV is stretched like this, you can come back, you can voxel remesh again, which actually 700 is really high, kind of unnecessary. We'll turn this down to like 320 or something. You can remesh it, and now all those UV circles are not skewed or stretched now. And now when we apply the roughness with that wooden texture, it's not going to be stretched out, but as you can see now, it's high resolution. I don't know if you all can see that very well on YouTube with the compression, but the layer lines are quite small now, and we just need to adjust that by tapping on the picture in our materials roughness. Tap on the image that we're using, and then we're going to scale this down. Actually, we're going to scale this way down so that it's nice and easy to see, and then we need to rotate this 90 roughly odd degrees so that it lines up with the grain of the wood, or the grain of the wood lines up with our object like that. And now we've got nice roughness for that object. Next thing that we need to do, we'll go ahead and color it. We can use our eyedrop tool to grab the color of wood. We'll do a little adjustment to make sure that the color is about the same. Hit paint all, and now you can kind of see that it's textured. The next thing that we want to do is, I don't know if this is completely necessary, but it does kind of help visualize the grain of the wood, is we'll add an emissive of the same thing, and then we're going to choose a dark gray color. All you have to do is just kind of move this around and find a color that looks good, and then lock it in. And I'm fairly happy with that. It's a little shinier than I want, and there's one way to fix that. Is this reflectance up here. You can actually turn this reflectance way down to like almost 0, and that'll get rid of that. And then for our emissive, we can come back and mess with the emissive to draw out the lines and the colors of that a little bit better. And that's pretty good. I think the only thing that I don't like about it is that it's repeating still a lot. So we'll just kick the scale down even more. That way we have less repeating pattern, a little bit less anyway. And then we can maybe even move that around. We can translate it a little bit like that so that the knots in the wood aren't so obvious. There we go. And that That's pretty good. The next thing that we'll do is we'll simply clone that item. And we'll use our gizmo to just move it down and out. And we'll probably, we could rotate it up like this, 90 degrees, and push it up into our object and squeeze this down more so that it's more in agreement with our reference image, like that. And that's pretty close. Maybe we need to shrink it down a little bit so it's not quite as wide as the roof itself. Okay, and for some reason I just undid everything. Okay, last thing that we need to do is add this tiling, roughness, and color. We got this one knocked out pretty quick. So we're here and here, here and here. So we're gonna select all of these. We'll hit this color, where I drop that orange color. And we'll do our best to match that color, kind of like that. We've got lots of roughness, that's fine. We could even hit it with the triplanar and then choose, we could choose a material for it, but that's fine. Let's just hit paint all. And then again, we'll go back into our materials. We're gonna hit it with roughness, and then we're going to import. I've got a roughness texture that you can use. That one's pretty good. Don't forget to turn the reflectance down. And then our emissive, we'll try using it for the emissive. It might not be necessary, we'll try. And then we can change the emissive a little bit. That doesn't seem to do anything. I had a feeling it wouldn't show up very well, but that's pretty good for what we need to do. I think the only thing we need now is, oh, we forgot that little board back there in the background. Let's just clone this one, and then we'll just move it up there, just like that, and then we'll shrink it down even smaller so that it's not so obvious. So it's just kind of tucked away in there. It's still peeking out a little bit, so we'll slide it back like that. Okay. All right, I think we can call that one done. And so what we'll do in our next tutorial, we can add this back piece real quick. It kind of looks like it's just a piece of wood back there, which that's fine. We can add that in the next tutorial. Pretty easy. Well, I'll just add it in between now and the next tutorial. And then let's see here. Let's focus on, I kind of want to work front to back. So let's work on the front of the shop. So this little awning here, we'll make these blue kind of tile shop shapes, kind of tarp shapes or whatever. And then we'll make these flower designs, and maybe we can do the wood frame. And that should be good for the next lesson. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. You learned something from what we're doing. And if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button. If you'd like to, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get updates and notifications when we publish another video and another tutorial for the series. and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining us.